Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books right here in Hive, or if you speak Anglo-Saxon, Haven, the safe haven, as we say in English. We had a little shaky session last night for our first reading of the Bhagavad-Gita front matter, but as it turns out, the recording was not actually affected negatively. It was the streaming that was affected negatively by Facebook, and they put out apologies. We watched the YouTube upload that Mayapur Shashi Prabhu does, and it was fine. There was no defects at all. So I was quite greatly relieved, because I want to make these recordings of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam as perfect as possible, because there are defects and missing, episodes and everything from the last time we did it. So bear with us. If Facebook's inconsistent sometimes, please don't panic and don't worry. We have a very good internet connection here and a good phone, and so there shouldn't be any problems in the recordings themselves. Okay, that said, let us get back to business and let us hear our glorification of the Bhagavad Gita, which is as good as the Bhagavatam. It's non-different. It's Krishna. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavatam is incarnation of Krishna. So here we go. Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram by Sanatan Goswami. Sarva Sastrabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaritya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguno Man Mahadana Manistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy. I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin adini chochata kada anamunchagadachin mam premna ret gantayokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right. Hare Krishna. Everyone, welcome back. We're in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we're beginning on the paragraph that begins, how Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad-Gita should be noted. How Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad-Gita should be noted. His manner of acceptance is given in the 10th chapter, 10, 12 through 14. Arjuna uvacha, padang brahma padang dhamma, pavitram paramang bhavan, purusham shasvatang divyam, adidevam ajam vibhum, ahus tvam rishiyak sarve, devarshir naradastata, asito devalo vyasak, swayam chaiva bravishime. Sarvame tadvidam manye yanmam vadasi keshava nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidur deva nadanava. Arjuna said, You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas confirmed this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. After hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Parang Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme Living Being, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Brahman. Param Dhamma means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitram means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Shashvatam, eternal. Divyam, transcendental. Adidevam, the original supreme personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn. And Vibhum, the greatest. Now one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of Bhagavad Gita, substantiates these praises in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only by himself, but by authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasadeva. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Sarvam etad ritan manye. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand, and that he cannot be known even by the great sages or great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Lord Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality, or even a very great personality. Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So according to the statements of Bhagavad-Gita, or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad-Gita, So according to the statements of Bhagavad-Gita, or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad-Gita, we should at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad-Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad-Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad-Gita because it is a great mystery. Just what is the Bhagavad-Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad-Gita is to deliver mankind from the nations of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Sri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad-Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering, but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jigyasa, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the Absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering, or where they came from, and where they shall go after death, should also have a firm, or where they shall go after death, are proper students for understanding Bhagavad-Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. Lord Krishna descends specifically to establish the real purpose of life when man forgets that purpose. Even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position. And for him, this Bhagavad-Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all swallowed by the tigress of nations. But the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad-Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. The subject of the Bhagavad-Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, jivas. There is Ishvara, which means the controller, and there are jivas, the living entities, which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad-Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the jivas, the controlled living entities. Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is, what the living entities are, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are. Out of these 5 basic subject matters in Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead, or Krishna, or Brahman, or the Supreme Controller, or Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs of material nature, as will be explained in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sachadachadam. This material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the driver, under whose direction everything is working. Now the jivas, or the living entities, have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcels. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller, Ishvara, or Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quantity, because we are minute Ishvaras, subordinate Ishvaras. We are trying to control nature, as presently we are trying to control space or planets, and this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad-Gita. What is material nature? This is also explained in Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. I'll read this last sentence again. I didn't read it nicely. Excuse me. What is material nature? This is also explained in the Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female, and she is always under control. Prakriti is female, and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Apariyamitastvanyam prakriting vidime padam jiva bhutam. This material nature is my inferior prakriti, but beyond this is another prakriti jiva bhutam, the living entity. Material nature itself is constituted by three qualities: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes there is eternal time, and by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then say I have lost all my money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work, or we suffer the results. This is called karma. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, eternal time, and karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad-Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false, but according to the philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real, but temporary. It is likened unto a cloud. It is likened unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season, which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over, and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which were nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord, although they are not separated, but eternally related. So the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial. But we can change the results of our karma or our activity. And this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in the Bhagavad-Gita. The position of Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is that of supreme consciousness. The jivas, or the living entities, being parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entity and material nature are explained as Prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord. But one of the two, the jiva, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. That is a difference. Therefore, the jiva Prakriti is called superior, because the jiva has consciousness, which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord's is supreme consciousness, however, which is, and one should not claim that the jiva, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection. And the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. The distinction between the jiva and the Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. The Lord is Kshetrajna, conscious, as is the living being. But the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies. Because he lives in the heart of every living being, he is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as the controller, and that he is giving directions for the living entity to act as he desires. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the actions and reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body, as we take off and put on clothes. As the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness, in sanity, and understands what sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that of the 5 items, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, time, and karma, 4 are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. The Supreme Conscious Ishvara is similar to the living entity in this way. Both the consciousness of the Lord and that of the living entity are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. That is a mistaken idea. That is a mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances of material combination is not accepted in the Bhagavad-Gita. Consciousness may be perverted, reflected by the covering of material circumstances, just as light reflected through colored glass may appear to be a certain color. But the consciousness of the Lord is not materially affected. Lord Krishna says, Maya Jakshena Prakriti. When he descends into the material universe, his consciousness is not materially affected. If he were so affected, he would be unfit to speak on transcendental matters, as he does in the Bhagavad-Gita. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. So the Lord is not materially contaminated. Our consciousness at the present moment, however, is materially contaminated. The Bhagavad-Gita teaches that we have to purify this materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of Ishvara, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities. Rather, our activities are to be purified, and purified activities are called bhakti. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activities, but they are not contaminated. An ignorant person may see that a devotee is acting or working like an ordinary man, but such a person with a poor fund of knowledge does not know that the activities of the devotee or of the Lord are not contaminated by impure consciousness or matter. They are transcendental to the 3 modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point our consciousness is contaminated. When we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. False consciousness is exhibited under the impression that I am a product of material nature. This is called false ego. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conceptions cannot understand his situation. Bhagavad-Gita was spoken to liberate one from the bodily conception of life. And Arjuna put himself in this position in order to receive this information from the Lord. One must become free from the bodily conception of life. That is the preliminary activity for the transcendentalist. One who wants to become free, who wants to become liberated, one must first of all learn that he is not this material body. Mukti, or liberation, means freedom from material consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also, the definition of liberation is given. Muktir hitmanyata rupam sarupena vyavastitihi. Mukti means liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world. and situation in pure consciousness. All the instructions of Bhagavad-Gita are intended to awaken this pure consciousness, and therefore we find at the last stage of the Gita's instructions that Krishna is asking Arjuna whether he is now in purified consciousness. Purified consciousness means acting in accordance with the instructions of the Lord. This is the whole sum and substance of purified consciousness. Consciousness is already there because we are part and parcel of the Lord. But for us, there is the affinity of being affected by the inferior modes. But the Lord, being the Supreme, is never affected. That is the difference between the Supreme Lord and these small individual souls. What is this consciousness? This consciousness is I am. Then what am I? In contaminated consciousness, I am means I am the Lord of all I survey. I am the enjoyer. The world revolves because every living being thinks that he is the Lord and creator of the material world. Material consciousness has two psychic divisions. One is that I am the creator. One is that I am the creator, and the other is that I am the enjoyer. But actually, the Supreme Lord is both the creator and the enjoyer. And the living entity, being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is neither the creator nor the enjoyer, but a cooperator. He is the created and the enjoyed. For instance, a part of a machine cooperates with the whole machine. A part of the body cooperates with the whole body. The hands, legs, eyes, and so on are all parts of the body, but they are not actually the enjoyers. The stomach is the enjoyer. The legs move, the hands supply food, the teeth chew, and all parts of the body are engaged in satisfying the stomach, because the stomach is the principal factor that nourishes the body's organization. Therefore, everything is given to the stomach. One nourishes the tree by watering its root, and one nourishes the body by feeding the stomach. For if the body is to be kept in a healthy state, then the parts of the body must cooperate to feed the stomach. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the enjoyer and the creator, and we, as subordinate living beings, are meant to cooperate to satisfy Him. This cooperation will actually help us, just as food taken by the stomach will help all other parts of the body. If the fingers of the hand think that they should take the food themselves instead of giving it to the stomach, then they will be frustrated. The central figure of creation and of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, and the living entities are cooperators. By cooperation, they enjoy. The relation is also like that of the master and the servant. If the master is fully satisfied, then the servant is satisfied. Similarly, the Supreme Lord should be satisfied, although the tendency to become the creator and the tendency to enjoy the material world are there also in the living entities. Because these tendencies are there in the Supreme Lord, I'll read that again. Similarly, the Supreme Lord should be satisfied, although the tendency to become the creator and the tendency to enjoy the material world are there also in the living entities, because these tendencies are there in the Supreme Lord, who has created the manifested cosmic world. We shall find, therefore, in this Bhagavad-Gita, that the complete whole is comprised of the Supreme Controller, the controlled living entities, the cosmic manifestation, eternal time, and karma, or activities. And all of these are explained in this text. All of these taken completely form the complete whole. All of these taken completely form the complete whole. And the complete whole is called the Supreme Absolute Truth. The complete whole and the complete Absolute Truth are the complete personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. All manifestations are due to His different energies. He is the complete whole. And there we will stop our reading for tonight of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, the introduction, which is, by the way, a classic piece of literature, and it has been published as a small book. It's very organized. The thoughts are very organized and outline the Gita, the whole subject of the Gita, perfectly. Hare Krishna. All glories to all the devotees who are hearing this. And we ask you to please take note of what you've heard. I pray that the streaming is good tonight. And even if it isn't, the recording is good. So you can go to the YouTube and watch it again, or you can go even to the Facebook and watch it again, and it will be fully intact. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll stop here. And if we have any reflections, any points of interest that came out, please share them with us. Hare Krishna.
First is from Rati Manjari.
Rati Manjari, Hare Krishna. I got a message from you, but I couldn't read it because I was in the middle of the reading.
She says, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai Rati Manjari Devi Dasi.
From Brian Phillips.
Jai Bhakta Brian Haribo.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Good to see you looking so well, Maharaj.
Well, thanks. Everybody needs encouragement. Hare Krishna, thank you.
From Sudevi Dasi.
Haribo Sudevi Dasi.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. Your daily reading, Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
From Bhakta Matsu.
Haribo Bhakta Matsu. He's from Denver, right?
I don't know if he's still in Denver, but
he was there for a while, yeah.
Please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to your most revered spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your continuous downpour of the nectar of these Bhaktivedanta purports. I hope you know how much we appreciate the daily mercy you are showing all of us by these readings.
Well, what can I say? I'm just a little peon over here trying to deliver the message of my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. And if it's coming across like that, it's because of him, because his words are true. But it's also true that I'm completely convinced after 49 years. It's been almost exactly 49 years since I met Prabhupada. Today is the 9th, and as a matter of fact, today is the day, 49 years ago, that I met Srila Prabhupada in San Francisco. So yes, Hare Krishna. And I tell you, I've been reading this Gita for all 49 of those years, a lot. And every time I read, I get something new. It's ever fresh, it's new at every moment, and it can take us out of the material conception of life. It's the material conceptions in our subtle bodies that keep us attached to the material world and conditioned. So this is the medicine. So Prabhupada told us, keep reading this Gita. Don't move on to something else and stop reading the Gita. No matter what else you're reading, no matter what else you're doing, keep reading the Gita every day. Hare Krishna. And you will be safe from the material energy.
From Saloni Sachi Sundari.
Saloni Sachi Sundari?
Yes. She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Rati Manjari says the streaming tonight was excellent.
Oh, good. It must be because of your will. Thank you, Rati.
And from Anandamurti Devidasi.
Mm.
Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much for reading today. I found that we are cooperator to the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
And another comment from Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
Tonight's reading impressed upon me the point of the living entity being not a creator, not an enjoyer, but a cooperator with the Supreme Lord.
That's it. That's the essence of spiritual life. Once we get that through our thick heads, and all of us in this material world have thick heads, even Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva have to be shown directly by Krishna that they're not the Supreme. Only Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And this is from Vrindavaneshwari.
Hare Krishna Vrindavaneshwari, Hari Bol.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj. The term activities in bhakti made me smile, remembering how 3 weeks ago I met my friend in Spanish Fork, Utah, for the biggest holy fest at Sri Sri Radhakrishna Temple. At one point I looked around at all the people on the temple grounds and thought, they are all intoxicated in this atmosphere of love, in Krishna's atmosphere, chanting, dancing, and taking prasadam.
Yes.
I'm going to use that term, activities in bhakti.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. That's good. That's good application. If we apply this philosophy wherever we go and whatever we're doing, then we will be able to see the truth. This is what opens our eyes and enables us to feel enlivened, even when what we're looking at seems to be degraded or seems to be a difficulty. If we're looking through the eyes of this, the knowledge in the Gita, then we will become enlivened and peaceful.
From Taranitai.
Taranitai, Haribol, Haribol.
Dear Srila Guru Maharaj, congratulations on this most significant anniversary day.
Well, Hare Krishna, he must be talking about the 1000th, isn't it? No?
I don't think so. I think about your meeting Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Bye, thank you.
And from Rati Manjari, another comment.
Haribol, Rati.
She says, this fact of us being cooperators with Krishna makes the famous quote of Srila Prabhupada, you will show your love for me by how you cooperate amongst yourselves after I am gone, even more meaningful.
Yes. He also, there was one other 3-4 words, I think, if I remember right, there's 3-4 words to add to that quote, and that is to help maintain this institution, or to maintain this society, to keep it together. And another thing he said, just about that same time, I was there, he said, just go on discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, and also that means Bhagavad-Gita, and everything will remain clear. Just go on discussing Srimad Bhagavatam among yourselves, and I've got that meant Gita also, and everything will remain clear. Because time is Krishna, and it's all powerful, and it will cause us to forget unless we hear like this every day.
Another comment from Anandamurti. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conceptions cannot understand his situation. This point is to be understood. This is the point to be understood.
Yes.
So we should practice bhakti and try to get out from this material conception.
Absolutely.
And Rati Manjari says, yes, thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I feel so happy tonight hearing from all of you like this, and hearing those nice realizations and your response to this reading of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. I'm personally convinced that it's extremely important, and that's why I'm very determined. That's why we got a good connection here in this flat we're living in. It's a very good connection, and it's meant to make high quality or as clean as possible recordings of these two books, the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, so that all of the recordings that we've made will be complete and clear, and that will be our contribution to human society and to Srila Prabhupada for his pleasure. So I thank you all very much, and we'll stop tonight. This is about the right time, but we should stop for me to be able to keep my health. And by the way, my health is getting better, and we are coming close to the end of our proof hearing marathon of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then we have to do the corrections and the dub-ins, and then the mastering, and then it can be released. Hare Krishna. Yes, something?
Two things. One, from Anandamurti, she says, thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. And then from Bhakti and Jasmine.
Oh, Bhakti and Jasmine, Hare Krishna.
She says, Hare Krishna, dear Keshava Bharati Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please forgive me. I am a little behind on the reading tonight. I've discovered today you can listen from the beginning of the stream already, despite it's been live for nearly an hour. From the setting the scene, the preface, and introduction, what really stood out to me was how important it is to understand the essence that Krishna is a person. Her Grace Shyama Gauri Mataji spoke in a Sunday feast class recently how this fact is the thread upon which the pearls of everything rest, and it's really interesting to see this in action. How neglecting this fact allows the living entities to attempt to carry on independently in the material world, and related to the reading, how other translators of the Bhagavad Gita try to make their own interpretation of the Gita.
Yes.
So I've reflected tonight the critical importance of Srila Prabhupada's effort and mission to deliver the Bhagavad Gita as it is.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
All glories to your service to Srila Prabhupada.
Wonderful reflection, Bhakti and Jasmine. Thank you very much. Wonderful reflection. And therefore, the more attached we become to hearing the truth from Srila Prabhupada in these books, the more attracted we'll become to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the more attracted and attached we become from Him, automatically, without separate endeavor, the material attraction will fall away. We don't have to make a separate endeavor, because it's impossible to make a separate endeavor to stave off Maya. She's always there, ready to pounce on us. So this is a very important point that you just made, Bhakti and Jasmine. Let's get attached to hearing the Bhagavad Gita and understanding it as a holistic thought, how the verses all connect together, and how Krishna repeats certain things again and again to make sure that we get it. Just like when we were children and we were trying to learn how to read and write and do arithmetic, we had to be, disciplined. We had to be drilled until we got it. And once we got it, it will never go away. So the regular hearing of the Bhagavad Gita as it is should be a mainstay for our spiritual lives, for our devotional lives, for our lives, period. And then we will become more stable and more satisfied and more peaceful and therefore happy. As Krishna says in the Gita, 2nd chapter, where can there be any happiness without peace? So the whole world now is becoming more and more chaotic. There's a shipping crisis, there's a banking crisis, there's a fuel crisis, there's social crisis, political crisis. It's one crisis after another. But with this vision, with this knowledge, we can live through it and not feel the effects of the chaos. And we can stay happy. And we can make others happy. And that will make Krishna happy. And that's the essence, to make Krishna happy. Two more.
From Devadarana.
Hare Krishna Devadarana.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you are one of the kindest devotees I have ever had the pleasure to hear and see.
Oh, Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
And from Rati Manjari. I also loved how Srila Prabhupada invites the reader to at least theoretically accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So smart and also so broad-minded.
Oh yes, oh yes. He told us that he actually injected faith into us. I mean, of course, all of us have faith ultimately. You know, Krishna consciousness is there within everyone. But it's so covered. And Prabhupada opened that door so that we can feel it ourselves.
And Bhakti and Jasmine says, thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Bhakti and Jasmine. Hare Krishna. Keep up the good work. Sri Bhagavad Gita, as it is, ki jai. Samabeda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. The basics of Krishna consciousness, of real life. Hari Bol. See you tomorrow.